Hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about the strong angel with the little book in Revelation chapter 10. I know it sounds kind of like a novel book title, doesn't it? But once we know who that strong angel is and what that little book is, you're going to understand so much more about the book of Revelation. In fact, in this study, a lot of your questions will be answered. So if you want to stop the video and read Revelation chapter 10, it will help you tremendously. Okay, so we're going to go verse by verse, and it starts out here, Revelation chapter 10, verse 1. I saw another angel coming down out of heaven, clothed with a cloud, and the rainbow was upon his head, and his face was like the sun, and his feet like pillars of fire. Now that word strong in Greek is eskuros, and it just means mighty, big in presence, boisterous. That's interesting. Well, I want you to tuck that description kind of in your back pocket because we're going to refer to that later. In fact, there's going to be a lot of things you're going to be tucking into your back pocket, your breast pocket, maybe your sleeve pocket, and we're going to be pulling these little tidbits out as we go, and you are going to love this study. Now, many people teach that this strong angel is Jesus Christ, but when we study this out, we're going to discover it's not Jesus. And if we think it is Jesus, then the passage is going to leave too many loose ends. And what we need to do here is tie up loose ends and get the fuller meaning of what Jesus is communicating to John as he's writing. Now, one of the reasons why many people think that this strong angel is Jesus is because of the description. And the word rainbow is in the description, and that automatically makes us think of Revelation chapter 4 when we see the rainbow around the throne. And although this is a very important detail, it does not mean this is Jesus. However, this spirit, this very strong angel, resides in very close proximity to Jesus, and this is why he has this description. Now, it's interesting. Jesus did appear to Ezekiel in Ezekiel chapter 1, verses 27 and 28. And Ezekiel bowed down and worshiped him. And if it was not Jesus, then the angel would not have accepted the worship from Ezekiel. And another reason how we know this strong angel is not Jesus is because as we read a little further, you're going to find out how casual that John is with this angel. And I will be pointing that out later when we get to it. So, now in verse 2 it says, and he, the strong angel, had in his hand a little book which was open. And the angel, he placed his right foot on the sea and the left on the land. So that small book, it's Strong's number 974, and it really is described as a small booklet. In fact, it's a very rare word. It's only used here. And what is fascinating, though, is in the Old Testament, there's a very rare and hardly used word that is a little booklet. And that's mentioned 2 times in the Old Testament. The first time is Zechariah chapter 5, verses 1 through 4, when judgment was being prophesied. And then the second time is in Ezra chapter 6, verses 1 through 3. And this is where Cyrus found a royal decree, a little booklet. And in that decree, it was giving permission to rebuild the temple, rebuild Jerusalem. And what's interesting is, although we're studying Revelation 10, what happens in Revelation 11? Oh, the temple is being measured. So there's that language of rebuilding and measuring the temple. Okay, now what's also interesting about verse 2 is it says that the booklet was opened. A book that's opened is being read. Right? A book that's closed is not being read. So this book is being read by this very strong angel, this very strong spirit. Verse 3, and he cried out with a loud voice as when a lion roars. And when he had cried out, the 7 peals of thunder uttered their voices. Okay, we're going to stop here. So the strong angel, he cried out loud like a lion. And when he cried out, 7 peals of thunder uttered their voices. They went, Can you imagine 7 angels? Oops, I kind of gave a little secret away. 7 peals of thunder. They utter their voices. Well, that word uttered is Strong's number 4750. It's the Greek word stoma. It means mouth, edge, face, lips. Prophesy. Whoa! We're getting some information here and some insight into who the strong angel is, who the 7 peals of thunder are. I'm going to tell you right from the get-go because then it's going to be so obvious. And as we study further in this chapter, it's like, oh, yes, it is obvious. That very strong angel is the spirit of prophecy. The little booklet he had open that he was holding in his hand was a record of prophecies. So he's reading these prophecies and his voice is like a roaring lion. So it's powerful. I imagine that whoever listens to the spirit of prophecy, their chest is going just thundering, pounding, kind of like when a Harley drives by really loud and it just kind of shakes everything in you. So that's what the spirit of prophecy is. So now we kind of understand why Ezekiel, Jeremiah, how they were able to prophesy such hard things, but with such conviction. And if they didn't prophesy, if they didn't do what the spirit of prophecy was saying, it was like they just couldn't even contain it. They just couldn't hold it in. So let's move on here. I love this. I get so excited about the word. Okay, verse 4. When the 7 peals of thunder had spoken, so first they uttered, I'm thinking of tongues, praying in tongues, speaking in tongues, giving a prophecy or a word of knowledge, right? Okay, but then they interpreted their own tongues. Because it says here in verse 4, when the 7 peals of thunder had spoken, I was about to write. So now, John couldn't write the roar of a lion. He couldn't write utterings like someone praying in tongues, right? But it was when they spoken in a language that John understood. Now we know that the people in the time of the Bible, they were trilingual. They spoke Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic. So we know that the 7 peals of thunder spoke in a known language, a language known to John. And so he is about to write. But just as he starts to write, because at the beginning of Revelation, remember, he was told to write down everything that he saw and heard. Well, what's interesting here is, just as he was about to write, he heard a voice from heaven saying, seal up the things which the 7 peals of thunder have spoken, and do not write them. He put his pen down. It made me think of a verse in 3 John, verses 13 and 14, where the Apostle John says and wrote to the church, I had many things to write to you, but I am not willing to write them to you with pen and ink. But I hope to see you shortly, and we shall speak face to face. So here we see a situation where John heard things in this vision, things that he could write down, but then he heard things that he couldn't write down. They didn't get in the Bible. Oh my goodness, that's fascinating. And what's so interesting is, it reminds me of Daniel chapter 12, verse 4, where Daniel was told, as for you, Daniel, conceal these words and seal up the book until the end of time. So here, Daniel got to write things, but he was not allowed to give the interpretation. He couldn't explain what was being written. It was for later time. I just thought that was interesting. Another interesting thing about verses 3 and 4 here out of Revelation chapter 10 is, when it comes to the spirit of prophecy, we can study the Bible and we can know what the prophecies are. We can get them figured out. But the challenge challenge has always been the when. When is the rapture? When is he coming again? When is judgment going to come on the people? See, hasn't that always been the challenge we're looking for? We're trying to figure out the when of all these Bible prophecies. When is the war of Ezekiel 38? When will Damascus be completely destroyed? I have a lot of questions about when Bible prophecies are going to happen, don't you? Okay, so we can understand Bible prophecy, but it's the when that is such a challenge. But yet, this spirit of prophecy, he knows the prophecies and he knows the when of them. That's interesting. Let's go on to verse 5. Then the angel whom I saw standing on the sea and on the land lifted up his right hand to heaven. So this angel, he's got his foot on the sea, foot on the land. He lifts his hand. And in verse 6 it says, and swore by him who lives forever and ever, who created heaven and the things in it, and the earth and the things in it, and the sea and the things in it. Oh, so he's swearing by the Creator. This is also how we know this is not Jesus. Because the Bible says that God can swear by none other because there's nobody higher than him. That is, you'll find that in Hebrews chapter 3, verse 11, Hebrews 4:3, and Hebrews 6:13. God swears by no one else. He just makes a statement and it happens, right? But we see this angel swearing by the Creator as he is standing on the Creator's creation, the sea and the land. Wow. This is amazing. Okay, now, moving on. What does this angel do next? So he's standing there, he's got his foot on the hand and his feet on the hand and on the land and the sea, and he's got his right hand up. He's swearing by the Creator, Jesus Christ, and now he prophesies. Why? Because he is the spirit of prophecy. So what does he prophesy in verse 7? Well, it starts out, beginning of verse 6, there will be delay no longer. Oh, we get a hint of timing. He's giving us a hint. He goes on in verse 7. But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he is about to sound, then the mystery of God is finished, as he preached to his servants the prophets. Wow. So the spirit of prophecy gives a prophecy. So now we need to ask, well, if there is no delay any longer, and when the voice of the seventh angel is about to sound, that's when the mystery is finished, we better find out, what does the seventh angel say? Well, you need to turn to Revelation 11:15 to find that out. Here it is. And the seventh angel sounded, and there arose loud voices in heaven saying, the kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ, and he will reign forever and ever. So, when the seventh angel is about to say that, that's when there's delay no longer. That's when the mystery is finished. What could he mean by this? What is he talking about? And what's finished? What is finished? Well, I have an idea. Turn to 1 Corinthians 13, verses 8 and 10, because we're going to find out what the spirit of prophecy was referring to. 1 Corinthians 13, 8 and 10 says this. If there are gifts of prophecy, they will be done away. If there are tongues, they will cease. If there is knowledge, it will be done away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part, but when the perfect comes, the partial will be done away. So, the spirit of prophecy, oh my goodness, he's kind of giving us his own career track, right? That is so interesting. So the gift of prophecy going to cease. That's interesting. Moving on, Revelation 10:8. Then the voice which I heard from heaven, I heard again speaking with me and saying, Go, take the book which is open in the hand of the angel who stands on the sea and on the land. Verse 9, so I went to the angel telling him to give me the little book. And he said to me, take it and eat it. It will make your stomach bitter, but in your mouth it will be sweet as honey. Okay, this is another reason why we know the strong angel is not Jesus. It's because John is going up to him and telling him what to do. Give me the book. Do you see how casual John is? If this angel were Jesus, John would go up to him and he would fall on his face and John would be worshiping him as God. And he would be receiving John's worship. So this is another reason why we know this strong angel is not Jesus. And once you understand that, we can start deducing who he is. And then you start reading the passage, and the whole chapter is about prophecy. So that is our clue. And there's more clues that this is the spirit of prophecy. Okay, so verse 10. John says, I took the little book out of the angel's hand, and I ate it. In my mouth it was sweet as honey, and when I had eaten it, my stomach was made bitter. That's interesting. Does this make you think of Ezekiel in chapter 3, verses 3 through 5 and 14? Because Ezekiel was given a little book to eat, and it made his stomach bitter. Tasted yummy in his mouth. Can you imagine these men eating that book? I'm just thinking, what if I was John? I was handed this scroll and I'm having to actually eat it with all these people watching me. It's kind of embarrassing being the only person to eat. You have to eat in front of everybody. Anyway. Verse 11. John goes on to write, and they said to me, you must prophesy again concerning many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. Wow. So he's being told, you've eaten the book, it's going to be honey in your mouth and bitter in your stomach. And now you must prophesy. So he's got to prophesy what was in that book. And it says here, okay, Revelation 19:10, just to speed things up, I'm going to tell you what that says. It says, the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. Wow. The testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. So think about it. This means that whenever you tell somebody about Jesus, and whenever you tell somebody that if you will ask him to forgive you of your sins, he will do it. You will spend eternity in heaven with Jesus. There is going to be a rapture. Did you know you are prophesying? Because these are things you can't see. And as for spending eternity in heaven, we're not there yet. We have not received our glorified bodies, right? So you're prophesying to people. That John kept designating who the angel was that he was interacting with. He kept saying, well, it's the angel that is got a foot on the land and the foot on the sea. It says in verse 11, and it was they who spoke to me, you must prophesy. Who are the they? They are the peals of thunder. They were also angels. That's why John kept designating which angel. It was the strong angel he was interacting with. It's because there was all these other angels around him. The peals of thunder are angels as well. They are spirits. Wow. In Revelation 19:6, John says, and I heard as it were the voice of a great multitude, and as the sound of many waters, and as the sound of mighty peals of thunder. Oh, that's interesting, because now the peals of thunder have an adjective added to their name. In fact, it's the same adjective that the strong angel was given. Now, just like the strong angel, the mighty angel, the peals of thunder are strong. They're mighty. It's the same word, eskuros. What made the peals of thunder gain that adjective? Oh, I know. It's because we've joined them. Because there's a great multitude. We've joined them, and we all sound together like mighty peals of thunder. Whoa, I love it. I hope that I'm leaving you equipped so that you will study further and that you will teach those you love. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.